Mount Rushmore is a national memorial in the United States made in honor of 4 US presidents chosen to represent the nation's growth, development, and preservation. It's also the place where Grandpa Max hid his big fucking guns.
Just say, I wasn't exactly your normal plumber before I retired.
Hey, what's going on, guys? You're watching the Modding Corner, and today we're going to be talking about the definitive Dragon Ball games Mount Rushmore. And while I explained what Mount Rushmore is earlier, let me make it simple. A Mount Rushmore is essentially explaining what is the most iconic or adds the most to whatever franchise is in question. And in this instance, we're going to be talking about the Dragon Ball games. And those can come in many different formats. We have arena fighters, 2D fighters, RPGs, and whatever the fuck Breakers is. But what would you consider the icons of these games? The top dogs, the big three, or 4 in this case, the one of ones. So today I'm going to be attempting to answer the question, not just for the community, but also for myself. So I'm going to be breaking this video down into 2 different halves. One half will be my personal Mount Rushmore, and the other one will be a more objective one in my opinion. So let me know what your personal Mount Rushmore is in the comments below. And with all that being said, let's get started. Okay, let's get the obvious out the way. Yes, Xenoverse 2 is on here. Why the fuck do you think it wouldn't be? Not only is Xenoverse 2 my favorite Dragon Ball game, but it's also my favorite game of all time. Sorry, Galaxy 2, but the stats don't lie. Outside of my very biased connections to the game, this has become the most content-rich Dragon Ball game, and it's not even close. You have the story, quest, online battles, raid characters, character customization, vehicles, multi-lobbies, and that's before you even factor in DLC and mods. Regardless, I just can't deny I'll always have a spot in my heart for the game, and even if we never get a Xenoverse, God, we're still doing that? Even if Xenoverse never comes out, I'll be more than satisfied with the time I had in Xenoverse 2. Now my next game is sadly gonna have to be Dokkan Battle. Yeah, when I was thinking about my own personal list, I really had to consider Dokkan, but sadly the data just doesn't lie. Dokkan is just one of those games that when you get into it, you really get into it, especially when there's summonable versions of your favorite characters during big events. And I've put in God knows how many hours trying to build my box, beat hard events, and summoning for new characters. I've had my current account since I was 13 years old, and I literally turned 23 yesterday at the time of this video going up. Wow, that's sad when I say it out loud. Dokkan is one of my comfort or uncomfortable, depending on the day, games, and a game that I can still always count on whenever I just want to turn my brain off and look at the pretty lights. Ooh. By the way, my biggest flexes are this Aurelia card, Dokkan resellers, how much of my account works out of curiosity. So yeah, Dokkan confidently earns its spot on my personal Mount Rushmore. And even though I've been trying to play it selectively as of late, you know, to keep control of the little voice inside me, that demon, that dog that channels my inner gambling addiction and wants me to press the summon and shot button, there will always be something or someone to call me back. Now this next game is a game I'm more than ready to admit I'm just plain bad at, but I love it anyway. I love this game, and I still think this is the best a Dragon Ball game has ever looked, period. The 3v3 action and gameplay is always a spectacle to witness, unless you're getting juggled in the corner like a hacky sack. Pause, hacky sack? What am I, 40? And as someone who remembers this game at its peak, before all the bad stuff happened, I have a particularly fond memory of stuff like the tournaments, character reveals, me and my cousin staying up all night to play this game on release, and that's not even mentioning all the great content that this game has produced, like raid battles,
sorry, little one,
lobby shenanigans, and the edits. Oh my god, the edits. Shout out to Shoyo Momo. His FighterZ edits are peak, and the BLM mod fed generations. I'm sorry, but it's peak. The story mode was also pretty decent for a Dragon Ball game at the time, despite it being a tedious grind, but at least the game gave us some hilarious interactions with the cast.
Well, this is quite a surprise. I didn't think Saiyans associated with such sensible and handsome creatures. ninjas.
And how could I forget about Android 21, the game character who actually got to show up in an official Dragon Ball production? And I'm not saying she's canon, y'all really need to stop using that word. But even though it wasn't something I was always playing every day like Xenoverse or Dokkan, it was a game that always stayed in my mind and always kept me excited. Sometimes I think about the nights like the Gogeta 4 reveal and I think, damn, I really wish we got FighterZ back. You truly never know what you have until it's gone. Also, that rollback update was some ass. Now this next game is definitely the one you've been waiting for. Something we all spent hours of our childhoods on. The name you all know, it starts with a B. Please welcome the next game, Budokai 3. Okay, so I'm gonna get grilled in the comments for this, but I have a confession to make. I didn't care that much for Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Now, that's not to say it was a bad game, I just personally didn't grow up with it like that. I had friends who had the game, but I never got the chance to own a copy for myself until later on, and at that point I'd already fallen in love with other Dragon Ball games. Now, Budokai 3 on the other hand, that was my shit. Now, honestly, this could be a bit of a dual placement because I have to give a quick shout out to Shin Budokai on the PSP for being the first Dragon Ball game that I ever owned. Now, the reason I got this game was because of my cousin who had the game before me, and I saw him play as Gogeta, who, if you don't know, is my GOAT. So I begged my mom to get me the game, and because she thought it was on the DS, I ended up getting Attack of the Saiyans. So we returned Attack of the Saiyans and got Shin Budokai. Later on, when I got my Xbox 360, I got the Budokai HD collection and played the hell out of Budokai 3. The moves, the punch kick blast system, Dragon Rush. I loved it all so much at the time, and it was my first introduction to Super Saiyan 4 and Dragon Ball GT. And at the time, I've only seen up to the Cell Saga and the movies, so what could this GT be? Yeah, I think this is where my GT hatred started, but that's a video for another day. Regardless, if it wasn't for this game, I think I would have been a completely different person, and for that, it has to stand atop of my Dragon Ball game Mount Rushmore. And you can argue for a game like Burst Limit or Infinite World, but I never played any of those, so they don't exist in my world. Anyway, enough talking, let's talk about what I think would be the definitive Dragon Ball game Mount Rushmore. And let's not waste anyone's time, Tenkaichi 3 is going to be on here. No matter what, it's the definitive Dragon Ball sandbox with characters from every era at the time, and unlocking them to this day is so much fun. Also, the lengthy and sometimes challenging story could keep you on your toes whenever things get boring. Also, this game had a crazy long shelf life with people standing by it having the best combat in the series, as well as being kept alive via mods like Budokai Tenkaichi 4, because sadly, despite perfecting the formula, they decided not to make a sequel to it. Anyway, the next game I decided should be on here was extremely tough to pick because I was stuck between FighterZ and Budokai 3. And after really thinking about it, I have to give it to, drumroll please, Dragon Ball FighterZ. Again, I talked about what made these games so special to me, but when you think about it, their legacy and potential legacy they will leave behind, I think FighterZ will have a far greater legacy because of how much ground it broke. While Budokai 3 is a good 2D fighter, FighterZ is an amazing 3v3 fighter, only rivaled by games like Marvel vs. Capcom in their prime. It had such an amazing tournament run. That and the graphics not aging a damn day will make this a game I'll always tend to boot up every once in a while, regardless of how rusty I am. Now, this next game will probably piss a lot of people off, and again, I hate that it's on here, but I have to give it the Dokkan battle. This game has gone on for too damn long. It has generated too much money for this franchise for me to deny it. Not to mention that the game is arguably at its peak right now, 10 years in with the Japanese and global versions finally synced. Seriously, why did it take this long? As well as content creators keeping the game alive, I don't think Dokkan will be going anywhere anytime soon. Legends though, I'm not gonna lie, it's not looking good for y'all out there. Now before we talk about the last game, let's go over a few honorable mentions that I consider putting on here. Dragon Ball Fusions. This game is such a unique little RPG that capitalizes on the awesome gimmick of fusion, as well as being able to travel around an open world, and I'm glad Gambarion is coming back to the franchise with Project Multi. Dragon Ball Ultimate Tenkaichi. It was the first Dragon Ball game to add CACs, and that's it. It didn't do anything else right. Raging Blast 2. I didn't play this game, but I don't think this game has that much of a legacy nowadays. People wanted a Raging Blast 3, but those voices have been fading throughout the years, especially because of another game that recently came out. Sparking Zero. Now with Sparking Zero being the most recent Dragon Ball game, it's honestly too early to tell what its legacy will be. However, at the time I'm writing this, not looking good, I'm not gonna lie. Boo's Fury. Now, this was the definitive Dragon Ball RPG back in the day, with it being the sequel to the legendary Legacy of Goku series. However, I'd say it's more of a relic of its time because of future games that released. And the last honorable mention I have is one that could genuinely be the 5th slot if we had a 5th slot, but we don't. And I want to talk about it anyway, and that is Dragon Ball Heroes. This game gave us so much, like Super Saiyan 4 Gohan and Super Saiyan 4 Bardock and Super Saiyan 4 Broly. This game bought us so many new forms and transformations and had such a rich lore and story, and it was the only Dragon Ball game to get a promotional anime. And the only reason why I can't confidently put it on the Mount Rushmore is because the game was never that popular anywhere outside of Japan, and it wasn't due to lack of trying, as we got Heroes games on the 3DS and Switch, but they just weren't successful here. And sadly, the game is dead and buried with its successor not that far from the grave, to be honest. Now let's get into the final spot of this Mount Rushmore, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of at a crossroads here between Xenoverse 2 and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Kakarot is the definitive Dragon Ball action RPG, with its story covering every Saga Z, some of the movies and the specials, and a little bit of Dragon Ball, and even Dragon Ball Diamond. Xenoverse is, well, Xenoverse, an action RPG arena fighter hybrid that lets you make your own character and immerse yourself into the Dragon Ball world. So what would I, the modding corner, the guy who predominantly makes Xenoverse mod videos every week and has over 10,000 hours in Xenoverse combined and has his entire brand built over his modded Xenoverse CAC picks? No shit, I'm picking Xenoverse. Obvious bias aside though, my main reason for choosing Xenoverse over Kakarot is simple. Xenoverse is a game that tries to immerse you in the Dragon Ball world, while Kakarot is a game that tries to tell you the story of Dragon Ball. And while it's one of the best to do it, it's not enough for me, and eventually there will be a game to surpass it, and it's just also not the definitive way to experience the series. I wouldn't recommend somebody playing Kakarot as their first exposure to Dragon Ball. Go watch Kai or read the manga. I have a few issues with Kakarot that honestly hinders my experience with the game, like the Cell and Buu saga being very lackluster adaptations, the long waits between getting DLCs that make me forget it's still being supported, and the cookie cutter combat makes me think it could be improved and perfected. That, and honestly, I've seen better adaptations, specifically from CyberConnect 2. These are the same guys who made Naruto Storm and Ashura's Wrath. And just look at those games' cutscenes, and then look at Kakarot's, and tell me, where did we go wrong? Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to go that hard on Kakarot, and Xenoverse 2 is far from perfect. Trust me, I know, but in the last 10 years, when you think about the memories, the good, the bad, the ugly, will you think more about Kakarot or Xenoverse? Did you seriously say Kakarot out loud just to disagree with me? Listen to how stupid you sound. I kid, but this is why I have to put Xenoverse here. Its legacy and impact on the Dragon Ball series will be felt for years to come, and I'll stand beside it till the end of the line, damn it. Even if Xenoverse 2 gets DLC forever! Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. Are you mad that I didn't mention Dragon Ball Online at all in this video? Me too, I don't know why I didn't bring it up. I want to shout this video out to the devs, as without these games we wouldn't have nothing to love or bitch about. Also be sure to like and subscribe as we are getting closer and closer to 10K. We're just about in the final stretch now, so be sure you can say I was there. Also, massive shout out to my channel members. For only 99 cents a month, you can access all of my videos and shorts whenever they are ready, as well as getting access to exclusive community posts and other stuff I have planned in the future. Don't forget to follow me on my other socials if you want to see more of me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. By the way, does anyone remember that Dragon Power game on the NES?